Madam, you continue. You just recognize my presence.
Good morning, participants. I welcome you all to this 10th webinar on Enterprise Risk Management, Risk to Reliance. Our today's speaker is C. Aditya Bhatt, moderator is C. Girish Maru and Mehul Naliar, and our Vice Chairperson, C. Preeti Savla ma'am, is here to interact with you all. Now, may I request our Vice Chairman to interact with you, give opening remarks. May I request our today's moderator, C. Girish Maru sir, to introduce our faculty and start the webinar.
Thank you, C. Aarti Bansalji. I welcome you on behalf of Board of Internal Audit and Management Accounting ICA. Welcome to our webinar on Enterprise Risk Management, Risk to Resilience in Internal Audit and Management Accounting. I introduce our today's speakers, CA Sri Aditya Bhatt. CA Aditya Bhatt is partner in the risk consulting practice of Ernst & Young LLP with more than 30 years of experience at leading global consulting companies. He is a chartered accountant, certified internal auditor, and cost accountant specializing in governance, ERM, compliance, internal audit, and risk consulting solution for advanced manufacturing, industrial, and infrastructure sector. He has been the past president of Institute of Internal Auditors, India, past president of IIA Bombay chapter, and he is currently appointed on the National Council of IIA India and Board of Governors of IIA Bombay chapter. With this, I welcome you, welcome our speaker, CA Sri Aditya Bhatt sir. Thank you, sir, for taking out your valuable time from your busy schedule and agreeing to guide us on the today's subject.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I request you to proceed further, sir.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, everyone. It's my honor to be here, and obviously this is the mother body of all accounting firms in India. So it's always the honor to make any presentation or to share my knowledge. So I will, before I get it, I'll just share my screen. So just please confirm whether my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So today's topic is ERM, risk to resilience. How we as an organization or as an individual develop an ability to predict, adapt. First, you have to predict the restraint, then adapt to the changing environment. How do we survive? And then how do we thrive? So the whole thing about risk to resilience is, how to predict something, adapt, survive, and thrive. So let me move on with this. Okay. So that we can understand what is ERM all about and why is it very important. You've seen the changing environment, the wars happening globally. We just come back out of the pandemic. You've seen what is happening in Ukraine, what is happening in Israel-Hamas war, Ukraine. The geopolitical situation, the US reaction with say China, the relationship between India shares with all the borders. So all of that has a huge impact, A, on a personal life, B, on the corporate as well, on how we do business. Okay, now before we get into what is, it's very important to know what is enterprise risk management all about, right? Okay, so let's say, to put a context to it, so when you're walking on the street, okay, and you're walking on a pavement and you see an individual who looks like this, how would we react? There are various ways. As a human beings, all of us don't react in the same manner. Some person will just ignore and continue the walking. Some person will change the direction. Some person would probably cross the road and go on the other side, wanting to avoid that person. Or somebody may say, hey, this guy may attack me, and so I will look for something to defend myself. I may pick up a stick. I may sort of brace myself to sort of react if this person attacks me. Okay, why do I do that? I do that because, just a second. Yeah. I do that because my eye has communicated a message to my mind, right? So it's both my eyesight and my mind which are working in combination. Okay. I'm walking on the street now. I'm from Bombay, so this is the month of May and coming into June. June is a very rainy season, so I'm walking on the street, bright sunlight, and suddenly it starts raining. And then what do? I open an umbrella. Why do I do that? It's because the sound and the touch has communicated a message to my mind to react, right? So normally when it's going to rain, it suddenly becomes dark. There is cloud that is hovering around. Then you hear a thunder, a noise, and then suddenly you can actually hear the sound of the raindrop before it actually touches you. And once it touches you, you would normally typically tend to open your umbrella. In Bombay, very it's very common sight. There's garbage and a dump which is next to you. What do? And why? You normally hold your nose, you take up your handkerchief. Why? Because the smell has communicated a message to the mind to react. So though we know we see the garbage, the moment it starts smelling, automatically, naturally, our hand goes to it. Why have we done all that? It's because of the six senses of human, right? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. Sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. These are the five elements that makes us react to a particular situation. And sometimes all of these five work in combination. And there's a sixth one, which is the gut feeling, which is a feeling which you get that, though it does not impact any of these five, but you get a gut, right? The mind. And all of this reacts. So ERM is all about developing these six human senses in a corporate. So corporate, is run by several individuals like you and me, correct? And I may be strong in my sight, somebody may be strong in their ears, some may be strong to smell certain things, somebody may be strong when they feel certain things, and somebody may have a good gut. How is it that all of these six human senses we develop? So this is what ERM is all about. Now I want to take you in the past, some of the significant events that have happened, and we have all read about it in the newspapers, right? And again, these are all 2010, 2011, we had the very well-known famous Rajat Gupta, who was handed a 2-year jail term, fined $5 million for insider trading. A very well-known gentleman who founded ISB, was on the governing board, a McKinsey chair at one point of time. He also somewhere, in this course, he failed. Then we had the Vodafone £1 billion tax scandal. Now, this is all about how Vodafone structured their organizations. They moved into Europe, they went into tax havens, and at one point of time, it was held that it was not a tax planning or a tax structuring, it could get into tax evasion. The BP oil spill, the famous BP oil spill that happened in the south of the US, where they actually lost $7 billion of market capitalization, and they had to shed more than $40 billion in potential fine and damage control. So it was a very significant event. And you can, if you Google it up, there's an entire case study on the BP oil spill. Then you have the hurricanes. Now, this hurricane now actually is old fashioned, because we now, due to climate change, we have hurricanes every now and then. We have seen, water logging in Dubai. We are seeing intense heat. In fact, today, what I hear is Delhi is reeling at 49 degrees over the last 1 week. 49, for all you know, it may be 50 also. 49 is what you feel at your residence. But when you go out and you go to the direct sunlight, it feels more than 50. Hurricane Katrina led to, high oil supply, gas prices. Zain as a company had $450 million locked in Sudan, because Sudan suddenly stopped repatriating all profits. So that the Thailand flood, it crippled the hard drive supplier. So Thailand was very big in hard drive. In fact, more than 90% of the hard drive supplies were coming from Thailand. The way the chips now come from Taiwan and Taiwanese companies, in those days, Thailand flood. The floods happened, all the manufacturing stopped, supply stopped. So you can't have computers without hard drive, right? Conflict minerals. So minerals in Africa, minerals in remote location, where we talk about, we would have seen this movie called Blood Diamond. So these are all conflict minerals. It is compliance to 6,000 companies worldwide. It was a cost. Bharti Airtel, our own, the MTN $24 billion deal was called up. All of this came with the impact. And one of the famous is Kodak. Kodak filed for bankruptcy, right? Failed to anticipate and adapt to changing environment. So we'll do Kodak as a very small case study today. And to give you a background, in 1880, Kodak was set up by a high school dropout who founded the company and started making photographic plates. In 1888, imagine how many years back, they trademarked this company and introduced the handheld camera as well as roll-up film. So film started coming in 1888 is when the photography started coming. Prior to that, people always used to paint and there used to be, like real painting. But photography is something it came in those years. 1902 invented the developing machine and which made it possible to develop films without a dark room. So if you can see that instant, now you had the situation where you can go take a photograph in 15 minutes, you had your picture, ready with you. So that was what, without a dark room, you could develop a picture. The sales exceeded $1 billion in 1962. Just imagine 1962, 1 billion. And if you just see what was the size of what is the $1 billion now in 2024, had 75,000 people employed. 1975 invented the world's first digital camera. So they were one of the people who invented it and they have patented it. In 1994, nearly 20 years later, they announced 30 new products, Royal Gold Film, new digital imaging product and services. 2011, the market value sunk below 200 million, which was 31 billion 15 years ago, and they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. When they filed for bankruptcy, what did they have? They had 1,100 digital patents, major portion of its value, and it employed 17,000 people worldwide, down from 75, which was probably the peak at one point of time. So according to the papers, the US bankruptcy code, it had around 5.1 billion of assets and 6.75 billion of liabilities at the end of September 2011. Now, what ended Kodak movement? Now, this is a very good case study that why did Kodak die so quickly? They pioneered in films. They were the inventors of digital camera, but still they failed, and digital cameras are doing so well today in the market. Successful business detect change. They do not always act on it, right? So they invested a lot in finding a new product, which was the digital camera. So they detected the change, they found a new invention, but they didn't act upon it. All they did was they delayed the technology. It did not kill it, right? The company invented in 1975 and it shelled because it would threaten its lucrative. So they did not get this digital camera out in the market because they thought that the lucrative business, which was a $20 billion business, it would severely. So they didn't want to disrupt their existing business. So was it a case of digital reluctance? The company did not fail because it did not move from analog to digital. It failed because it failed to figure out what people would do in future, so they couldn't imagine that in future we'll have something like a Facebook, Instagram, where digitally people would use digital technology. So what they did was they shelved the idea, but the Samsung and the other guys actually came out with it and killed their business, and there was nothing they could do. They could have taken the first mover advantage. So now, so they didn't have the foresight, but on hindsight, if they had disrupted their own $20 billion business, probably they could have become a $1 trillion, the way, like today, an Apples of the worlds are. Okay. So this is where a Kodak. So we can get inspired from that and see, when we are working with our clients or when for our own business, we need to figure out what is it that's going to happen in future that could disrupt me today. I mean, do I have the ability to disrupt my own business? Disrupting my own business can make me bigger as well, right? So we need to challenge continuously ourselves. As we say, change is the only constant. We need to keep changing. We need to keep looking for opportunities which can kill our business so that we can do something different, which would, assume a larger scale and size. While doing that, you also need to keep off what are the trends that are happening and what is it that could impact us. Okay. So now in this entire presentations, I have taken certain risks from certain publications. Okay. So and these are all freely available. So I would encourage all of you to actually go. If you look at the source, if you just Google Euro Asia Top Risk 2024, they come out with this report mostly in early Jan or late December. Mostly, I think it's in the Jan of every year. They actually predict what are the 10 key things in a geopolitical world is going to happen. The biggest thing that's going to happen this year is, or anyway, we are halfway into the year and the Indian elections are also going to end very soon with the results coming out on June 4th. So 60 big companies were going into election this year, and they were all leading economies in Europe, in the US, in Taiwan. So United States versus itself. Okay, while America's military and economy remains exceptionally strong, its political system is going to be a little dysfunctional this way. So it is going to be Biden versus Trump. Now, whoever wins is going to be a problem. So it is actually going to test Americans' democracy, and being the largest economy in the world, any impact that has a global impact as well, right? So we have to be very, very careful, because if Trump wins, we know how he is. He's going to bring about some radical changes. If he doesn't lose, he's going to litigate internally and try to undermine the election process. Okay, so we see a lot of conflict, which will have an impact on our economy, our stock market. So everybody is waiting for November, September, October, November to see that who in the United States is going to win. Second thing is the Middle East, right? With Russia and Ukraine fight, and last year in October we having Israeli and the Palestine conflict. So most of the Muslim countries in the Middle East, predominantly Muslim region, right? Now they are going to get conflict. Now Iran, we recently had the Iranian Prime Minister die in a crash, right? So now was that an accident? Was that now that these questions will come up? There are a lot of conspiracy theories that go on, right? So you have a lot of internal conflicts out there. The Yemen is at war, Syria is at war, Iran is at Cold War, Russia is at war. Iran is actually financing the Yemen rebellion. Israel is financing the ISIS, which is Islamic State of Syria and Iraq. So all those. So Middle East is very good in natural resources, very, very critical. It's in the center of the world, and any problem they create has an impact. You have the Suez Canal out there, which will be at stake because it's between Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Egypt. Now, Ukraine war is not going to end, and eventually it will end, in which I guess Ukraine will lose around 18-20% of its territory to Russia. So that's going to be inevitable. Now it's created so much problems, and and because of this, all the countries which are at risk is now going to start stocking up weapons. While the markets of defense will go up, but having weapons, of mass destruction is not going to help. So this Ukraine war is going to cost the entire world a lot, and we need to see what is the impact. To give a simple example, there's a huge steel plant in Ukraine, one of the major ones. So which is a 20 million metric ton steel plant, and one of the outputs of the steel plant is a gas called neon gas, right? And neon gas is a very critical gas from a microchip manufacturing. It's one of the critical. Yeah, without that you cannot do it. Now, smaller steel plants, actually collection of that or storage of that is very expensive, or to collect it or capture it is difficult. For a 20 million metric ton, a single unit, you can do it, but you can't do it on a smaller thing. So chips, majorly the chips are manufactured in Taiwan or in China by Taiwanese companies. Okay. And chip is a very important component of any electronic good today. Whether you look at your air conditioning, whether you look at the TV, whether you look at the mobile phones, it's chip. So China attacking Taiwan, okay, and Russia taking over Ukraine, or it's very, these two countries now are actually controlling the gas and the chip manufacturing. So that has a huge impact on the world. Nothing will work. We'll probably not be able to do this training or this session today if the microprocessing chips are not there, the chips are not available, right? So now this is where the impact comes from. So if your business is totally dependent upon the chips coming from Taiwan, then this war has an impact on your business. So these are certain things which comes out of this. Ungoverned AI, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence could be an enabler. Artificial intelligence could be a biggest source of misinformation and disinformation, right? Misinformation is something that is a wrong thing going on because it could be an inadvertent mistake, whereas a disinformation is intentional spread. Like we have Gen AI, we have videos that are coming out of like the recent Pakistan election that happened. We saw Imran Khan speaking. Imran Khan is in jail, but it's that Gen AI which actually made his pictures, his image, and his speech. Now it was all fake, right? So there's a lot of fake news that is there in the market, and it becomes very, very difficult for us to determine which is genuine, which is fake. Similarly, now coming back to point number 5, the axis of rogues. So Russia, North Korea, Iran are world's most powerful rogue states, right? So if you look at hackers, they are all Russian hackers, North Korean hackers, Chinese hackers, Iranian hackers, right? So they are the ones who keep on trying to disrupt. Now, of course, US, another company will get together to have sanctions on it. And we call those sanctions draconian sanction because it has an impact on humanity also, right? If you stop supplies of medicines, if you stop supplies of essential commodities, food to these countries, okay, because Russia doesn't have everything. Russia is reliant on imports for certain things. So is Iran, so is North Korea. Sometimes North Korea, Iran may need technology for survival, whereas Russia may need food and other elements, okay? So sanctions can have impact which will lead to hatred of US and its allies, and that leading to a lot of untoward incidents. China was one of the biggest fast growing economy. It continues to be, but it will not be at the same pace. This is the prediction. Okay, we have seen a lot of failures in real estate businesses and all in China. Okay, so while we keep saying that China and India put together 1.4 billion, 1.4 billion, 2.8 out of the 8 billion population. So nearly 40% of the world population are these two countries. So domestic demand is significant, but that's not true when it comes to China, because China is a very, very poor population. So most of them, they relies on exports. Now with the economy being troubled and economics decoupling, manufacturing happening. If you see, Apple has moved away from China. They have come significantly in other countries other than China. So they are manufacturing, say, in India now. Right. So the Chinese recovery is going to take time, especially after the virus that has happened coming out of the pandemic flowing out of China. That's created a huge impact. So Beijing's failure to address country's growth model, financial fragility is going to have a result in social instability, because a lot of capacities are out there, but they may not be able to run those capacities. To get those capacities back into other countries is going to be a challenge. Fight for critical minerals going to happen, like for example, lithium. Now, lithium is a very critical element. If you want to go green, we need to make batteries, and batteries, one of the big components of batteries is lithium. Now, lithium you will find in Canada. Lithium now we have discovered in Jammu and Kashmir. There are certain lithium mines discovered in Rajasthan, so on. So there is going to be a fight for critical minerals, because some countries are heavy on these minerals, like iron ore. 80% of the minerals, 80% of the coal production are controlled by, I mean, of course, more countries have coal, but if you see iron, top 10 countries, India would be one of those. So fight of critical minerals, like if you look at oil, only few countries have oil deposits. So there is going to be a fight, and there could be a lot of issues where there is a shortage of critical minerals versus somebody who has those minerals. So they have the negotiation power. No room for error. Inflation shock that began in 2022 continues. High interest rates is resulting into, in fact, inflation is resulting into high interest rates. So US is now having 4-5% rate of interest, maybe 6%, which is unheard of. Usually there is zero inflation or 0.5% inflation in US. So what you bought there 20 years back at $20 will now cost you 21, whereas in India what you bought at 20 rupees is now probably 120 because of the inflation part of it, right? So there's no room of error. Anything else will have an impact on individuals. So all the buffers and all which government has all exhausted. So there's limited scope now to stimulate growth or respond to shock. So whatever happens over the next 2 years, 24, 25, there is no scope, because we don't want to get into financial stress, social unrest, political instability. Those are the outcomes of any errors that makes. El Nino is nothing but climate change, and you will see a lot of issues happening. I mean, I'm from Bombay. In between a week or 10 days back, we had that strong winds coming and a huge banner, an illegal banner, 120 feet by 120 feet collapsed, killing. It actually, there were 120 vehicles waiting at that petrol pump, and that whole banner fell on that. 120, 250 tons, metric tons of weight. So many lives are lost. We don't even get to know how many people died. There are cars which got crushed. Now imagine it was a small breeze that happened, and then major calamities, forest fires, those things happening. So that is El Nino. 3-4 years it was a little silent, but now that climate change impact is being seen. And last but not the least is what we call the risky business. Customers, employee, investors, mostly on the left, were bringing the US culture wars to the boardroom. So you have the left wing, you have the right wing. So you have the you have a promotion for LGBT IQ, saying the gender diversity. There are various agendas that are running. So if you notice in one of the leading universities, the professor liked a particular comment on Israel, had to leave. The dean of the college had to resign. So those corporate boardrooms, US culture wars will continue, and we'll see lots of it. So we have to be very careful in the comments we make, what cultural sentiments that we are hurting, all those needs to be seen. So these were the geopolitical issues, and these have significant ramification on our businesses. And with the clients, we have to keep all of these in mind. So I would strongly encourage read the reports. These reports are very nice. They are very short. There are executive summaries, which gives you a good set of information with data sets, which you can actually go and research on Google as well. Of course, World Economic Forum, we all know, very popular. So again, these reports are come up in the month of Jan every year, all freely available. We have to look at it. We have to see what we can use and what we need to throw away. Because some of these reports are also motivated, and all motivation comes from the West. The tech companies and all, they motivate with their sort of bias searches and biased surveys that are happen. But yes, but more or less, it's 90% accurate, I would say. So in the next 2 years, the topmost risk which has been identified is misinformation and disinformation. Extreme weather situations, okay, have temperatures of 50 in the Middle East. In India, Middle East, it was always there 50, but that temperature will become 52, 53. In India, seeing 48, 49 in normal cities like Delhi is scary. Societal polarization, cyber continues to be a big information. Interstate armed conflict, very much we have seen right now, and we'll see more. So, China, Taiwan is something that now people are waiting and watching to see. Lack of economic opportunities. Today, in the last 1 or 2 weeks, you would have seen that how tech companies are laying off people, how people in IIMs, in IITs are not getting jobs. There are no opportunities. So there's a mismatch. So there may be opportunities in the US, but not in India. But the talent, the skill is in India, and it's not very easy to export that talent because of geopolitical instability and because of other geopolitical reasons, conflict between countries, the deglobalization. Inflation has a direct impact on individuals. Involuntary migration, forced migration, the Rohingyas from the Burma, you see the Bangladesh, the Syrians, wherever there's war, the Hamas. So the Hamas is an armed government, right? But then there are local Palestinians who are just good human beings like you and me. So now they will try to creep into the neighboring countries. Of course, they are sort of blocked from all sides. It can't happen. But you've seen a lot of immigrants going into, say, Canada and a lot of countries which open to immigrations, right? Economic downturn, pollution. Okay. So at one point of time, climate change sustainability was one particular component, but now it's such a big topic. Now it has been split up between, say, weather condition, pollution, so on and so forth. Similarly, interstate armed conflicts, involuntary migration, they're all interrelated. 10 years from now, the prediction, how are these top 10 years going to take in 10 years? If you see the green ones, weather, critical change to earth system, biodiversity, natural resources shortage, they are going to become top. Misinformation, disinformation, adverse outcome from AI technology. So AI technology today have been spoken about, but the practical implementation has not happened when it comes to Gen AI. Very soon we'll see the real practical implementation and commercial implementation of this. And then there'll be outcomes, adverse outcomes. So sometimes we all know technology is only an enabler, but it's possible if it's not used ethically, it can create more damage than good. Involuntary migration, cyber insecurity, societal polarization, pollution, all of this will continue. Some will keep changing the color and getting a new name. Similarly, something which is going up, going down persistently, extreme weather, societal polarization, cyber insecurity, involuntary migration, they are persistent. They have always been there. Biggest increase in ranking, technological power concentration, misinformation, disinformation, interstate, they're increasing. Interstate armed conflict is increasing. Insufficient public infrastructure and services. So they're increasing in ranking. So, from 18, they're becoming 15, 13, 12, they're coming up in the top 10. And biggest fall is unemployment, biological, chemical, and nuclear hazard, debt is coming down, geo-economic confrontation, that's coming down. Right. So all of this, the World Economic Forum report is a very comprehensive report. Okay. Again, what I like about it, there are a lot of diagrams which depict all the messages they want to give. And the first 10, 15 pages are very, very relevant for all of us to read and keep reading it. And we need to keep ourselves updated as well, because these are the resources and sources as a professional that is available to us, which cover global. So you get not only the India perspective after reading it, you get the global perspective. This actual report in 2023 spoke about modification, with our current Prime Minister, how good he is doing, but where it could lead, the positives, negatives, everything is written. As I said, but don't read it and believe whatever it is. Apply your discretion. As auditors, as chartered accountants, we've always been told to apply our discretion, right? Apply it and see how it works for you. Now, what good thing this year they have done is that all this risk for different stakeholders, like we understand stakeholders, stakeholders are not shareholders, but stakeholders. So for a civil society like you and me, what could be the biggest impact? For international organization, what is the impact? For education, what is the impact? For the government, what is the impact? For private sector, what is the impact? So they have actually categorized all these in these 5 buckets, which are very, very nice. Yeah, so if you're working for an education or you are from academia, then this is what is impacting you. If you do a lot of work for the government, what is the significant impact of the government? All that is given. And remember one thing, and BP oil spill is something which I've taken up, all these risks are interconnected. You cannot look at it in silo. This is like a domino effect. If one falls, everything tuck, 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 it will keep falling, right? So if you look at it, socio-political risk, how it impacts, spike in oil prices will lead into more expensive petrol, gas, right? So that has an impact on it, increase inflation. It impacts real estate and tourism also. Now, if it impacts real estate and tourism, then hotel rental reservation cancels, house of sales cancels. So if you look at this particular agreement, say everything is interrelated. The BP oil spill that happened, okay, it's an oil spill. Okay, what did it do? Our first reaction is, okay, few people that rig got blasted in this thing, oil leak ho gaya, it went into the sea, some damage, some pollution happened in the sea. Okay, but it killed the fishing industry. The moment the fishing industry killed, there are fishermen who own boats. They have no livelihood. Their boats are not utilized. Okay, all the pollution came to the neighboring seashore, so their hospitality got impacted. The beach properties, nobody came there because you can't go and swim in the sea, right? The seafood got contaminated. Loss of market share of Gulf of Mexico. Then you saw loss of jobs because all of them, they're a heavy duty. So if you look at a lot of legal claims came up, people lost their life, their claims came up, pollution, loss of reputation, clean energy, spikes in oil price. So if you see, all of them are related. And of course, it impacted the stock market because BP was a listed entity. Okay. Now, having done the theory part or having seen what the sources are, now we to see what are we seeing today. Okay, and now we need to see it from an India perspective if you're working in India, and you need to look at the global perspective also. Customer demography are changing. Okay, India is a very young country. As of today, the average age was 29. Next year, the average age will become 30 as we grow older. Okay, average age is, the mean age is 29. So if you were to keep people from age 1, 2, 3, 4, 29, you will cover 70 crore population. Huge. 29. So the workforce, so people below 54 are nearly 74 to 80%, right? People above 65 is around 10 to 14%. So it's a very, very young, so very, very productive sort of demography is what we have. And what that means is their needs are different. I, qualified in 97. There are people who are qualifying 2024. So my expectation is way different than the need and expectation of somebody who has qualified today as a chartered accountant, right? So we have I'm from the Gen X community. So we have Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and now it is Generation A, the people who are born post, I think, 2014. So 2010 is a cusp between a Gen X and a Gen Z. Gen Z is 2010, if I recollect, and now within 14 years, at 2024 will be the Gen A, the new community that's coming up. So the needs are different. So we need to keep track. The way they wear their clothes, the way their behaviors, the food habits, all are different. So if you don't take care of the demographic, you may soon run out of business. Similarly, customer behaviors and customer expectations are changing. So today, efficiency, effectiveness is the basic expectation of any customer. Customer demography, with that, the customer behavior. Technology information is accelerating and is transforming. Okay. Now, we should not take AI or Gen AI so lightly. It's very, very important. All of us as professionals, all of us as chartered accountants understand what is artificial intelligence, what are the various subsets, and what is Gen AI or general artificial intelligence is very, very important. So the difference between the two is AI is able to get you back information, get you back knowledge which already exists. And Gen AI is a technology which creates something that does not exist. You tell Gen AI to create a picture of a tiger, it may never have seen a tiger, but it'll create a unique picture of a tiger. It can create a purple tiger, whatever you want. You just keep telling it, it'll keep refining it, right? So it's very easy. So if you can go and open up Chat GPT, the version 4. I mean, of course, you have to log in. If you required, you need to pay a small fee to it. You have to pay a small fee and all that. Okay, you can say create an elephant, create an African elephant in Ranthambore forest. So it will give you a Ranthambore forest and an African elephant there. And they're all computer created. They are not real pictures. They are created by the system. Startups, huge startups in India. Of course, the successful startups are reducing, but startups coming with lot of innovations in India. Okay. Now we need to distinguish between invention and innovation. So India is good in innovating, but not in invention. The day we reach the level of invention, then we will sort of control, I would say, you can control the economy. Innovation means somebody has to invent and we make that product a little better. So startups are proliferating, funded by VCs, and they're disrupting various business models. Okay. Now, if we talk about, the question that comes up is Netflix. Who is the biggest competitor of Netflix? Okay. The biggest competitor of Netflix is our sleep. If we decide to sleep more, then Netflix is ineffective. Netflix encourages binge watching, right? So, okay, biggest competitor of Coke is water. It is fighting the place for water. When you are thirsty, you drink water. It's trying to say have Coke. So we need to be very clear. So all business models are disrupting. And there's also a famous saying, if something is free, you're the product, right? So startups are there, business models are disrupting, and non-traditional competitors are emerging. Can you imagine Netflix competitor is nothing but a behavior or an action called sleep? Coke is this thing, and a competitor of a pharma companies is exercising. You getting up early, going for a walk is the biggest competitor to a pharma company. Pharma companies want you to sleep more. Okay. Sleep more, don't do exercises so that you get into some sort of physical issues for which you can take their medicines. Whereas a Netflix wants you to sleep less and watch their movie and pay them money for that. Okay. So if you see, what you call the strategies are contradicting, but both are successful strategies for these companies. So any change you see, as I said, if you're willing to disrupt yourself, there'll be maybe a better opportunity around the horizon. So certain things, telematics, now we've seen all the chips. If you see your car, they're all smart cars, right? It tells you the number of kilometers you're driven, at what speed you're driven, what is your mileage, all of that you can get in the mobile. It can tell you how much you slept, whether your battery is working properly, not working properly. So with telematics, everything can be monitored, and plus you can empower it or power it with solar energy as well. Blockchain technology was very well spoken 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. Blockchain was a topic. Now, if you see, blockchain is now getting out of fashion. Now we're talking about AI. While they are all different technologies used for different purposes, but yeah, app-based process reengineering and activation. So today there are, for example, your refrigerators are so smart. It can identify what vegetables are there and it can order on Amazon or Big Basket directly. Similarly, when you're coming from outside and you want cool, you can start your air conditioning when you're entering the elevator of your building. Or if it's very hot and you're going out into your car and you don't want to, you're going into your parking lot, you can start the air conditioning and set a temperature that the moment you sit, it's cool. You don't have to wait for the AC to work after you sit. Drones are used for various purposes, right? The drones was a toy at one point of time, but now we are using it for deliveries, surveillance, photography, various use cases. Cryptocurrency. Now, ATMs were there, then it got into vending machines. So today, automatic machines can do a lot of stuff. Consumer data, social media, telematics, 3D printing, right? So now 3D printing is becoming very, very popular. So today, if you read the newspaper, I think it's called Agni Cool or whatever, the new, they are all done through 3D printings. They are going to try out sending rockets. This company in Chennai is doing rocket, which is done through 3D printings. Okay. So now we come back to what is risk. Okay. So again, now again, whatever I said, the trends which I gave, everything you need to relate to our main subject on risk. Risk is what? Risk is potential of losing something of value. That's a risk. Risk means something will go wrong. There's no risk of the upside. The risk is always on the downside. Now, values can be gained or lost. It's up to you when taking the risk, resulting from a given action, activity, or inaction, forcing or unforcing. So there's a risk. The risk is the potential of losing something, but when you're losing something, you can gain as well. So that is as a good businessman, as a good professional, you need to see that when you're taking a risk, it's a calculated risk. Risk and uncertainty. So what is the relationship between two? Uncertainty is a potential, unpredictable, unmeasurable, uncontrollable outcome. Risk is a consequence of action taken in spite of uncertainty. So this is risk. So we need to understand what risk is. COSO 2017, so there are various definitions. But I found this to be a good definition. The traditional risk management always focus on protecting tangible assets. What you see, you protect. What you don't see, you don't protect. Then contractual rights and obligation reported on a company's balance sheet. So if you remember the assertions which we learn during a CA program, valuation, rights, obligation, existence, right? So whatever is rights and obligations is there on your balance sheet get protected. So what it means is your reputation is not there on the balance sheet. How do we value a reputation? How do you value ethics? Okay, so we never, in risk management, we never used to see, but now we have to look at something which is not there in your balance sheet. So good definition would be, what is ERM? It's a culture of an organization, the capabilities that you carry, the practices and the behavior that you have within an organization, which is integrated with the overall strategy of the company and the performance of the company, that is the KPIs, to manage risk in creating, preserving, and realizing value. So an ERM not only preserves, protects you, it also creates value, not only on paper, but it realizes you in monetary terms. So that's the definition of ERM as per COSO 2017. Now, COSO 2017, there's a lot of material that is available for you to read. But if you take the entire book, then you have to buy it. I think it's a paid book. So yes, so there'll be a lot of trainings, PPTs, and all which you will find, which will give you good insights. But if you want to buy the real publication, then you will have to pay that money and buy an original copy of it. You get an e-copy as well. Now, this is something which I took from a very good publication and Guide to ERM. It was published way back, if I recollect, somewhere probably in 2000 or I don't recollect, way back from Protibity, which actually gave 5 categories of assets. We have seen physical assets, financial assets. Physical assets are those assets like land, building, equipment. Financial assets are like cash, receivable, investment, prepaids, others. What you don't see are the customer assets, your loyalty of the customers, your channels of sales. If you look at an auto company, you have distributors, you have stockists, you have various affiliates, you have various intermediaries. They are also your assets, right? Then you have employee supply partners. They are your asset. This is something which are not there on the books unless you have to receive or pay them something. And the moment you receive or pay them something, it becomes a financial asset, like a receivables or a payables, right? And then you have the overall organizational asset, leaderships, the team of leaders that you have, the strategy that you have adopted. One of the classic cases of strategy which I recently heard is, between the iOS of Apple and the Android, right? What does Apple say? My iOS will go only on my device. It's not available for anybody else. It's proprietary to me. Okay, that's one strategy they adopted. And Android says, I'm willing to give my software to anybody. All the other phones are on Android technology today, right? Both are different models, different strategies, but both are very, very successful. Okay, Apple is able to play in the premium play. Android, it is playing in all the fields, premium as well as non-premium. Okay, one is aspirational and there is a need. So these are different strategies, and that itself is an asset. Leadership, strategy, the knowledge base that you have, the values that you have, the ethics, the reputation, the innovation that you keep doing, the robust system and the process that have you in price. They are all intangible assets and considered an asset that you need to protect and preserve. Okay. Now we all know that the way we have the BSE Sensex, we have the Nifty, there's a S&P 500 index. So at one point of time, any companies which features in the index, whatever criteria they adopt based on market share or whatever it is, has declined. In past, it used to be 67 years. It has come out to be around in 2011, 15 years. So a particular company will feature in the index for in the past 67 years. In 2011, 15 years, in 2025, that's 2 years from now, a company will move out of the S&P 500 in every 5 years. That means there are going to be disruption. Your market cap is going to fall. Whatever the criteria have to be in the S&P index, its life is going to be 5. So when we look at a business ecosystem, and these are some of the models that I adopt while doing ERM, you have the board, you have the board management governance, you have the various processes. Within internally, you have the regulators, legal system, suppliers, customer, investors, financial institution. But outside, there's something we call the pestle model: political, economic, social, technological, legal environment. They come from outside. The internally something within your control, right? So something that you control, you can mitigate it before it originates. But something which is outside your control, the sixth element, the pestle element, all you can do is once that event happens, you can ensure that the loss is reduced. Okay. So some of the examples, when we are talking about, we know the risk, then how do we get resilience? How do we risk resilience is when the event happens, how do you counter it and how do you get back to your feet? Like a boxing, somebody hits you, you falls. If you fall on the count of 10, it's a knockout, right? How do you get back on your feet and fight back? Okay. So some examples to get our thought thinking is, one is establishing workplace rules. Okay, what is expected or retired, what is prohibited, what is consequences. So any, employee policies, any policies you have in your procurement, they are workplace rules, right? Practicing the plan for evacuating staff and clients from a facility during an emergency. We do all these mock drills, right? Fire drills. Now that is one as the example of proactive risk management. Traffic signal provide direction to people on the road. Policies, procedures, delegation. So any or exception handling. Background check of vendors before selection of new vendors. So you need to do third-party risk management as well to ensure you're not buying anything from a cheat vendor or from a blacklisted vendor or from a sanctioned vendor. Setting up a central legal team to monitor changes in laws and regulation to ensure compliances. Project feasibility study before commencing any project. Now, when you're doing project feasibility study, people normally, and this is like for most of us in our business, it's easy work, right? Because we are structured or trained towards numbers. So feasibility studies, we only look at the IRR and the profitability of a study. Okay, there are other things that you need to look. One is the financial due diligence that you do. Second thing is the legal due diligence that you do. Third is the commercial due diligence that you do. Now, do we do social due diligence when we commence any project? When you say social due diligence, if you're going to a state which you are not familiar with, or you're going to a country which you have never worked before, how will the people react to it? If you go to Australia and do the mining, the locals will come and protest. Okay. If you go and do if you start opening up a swimming pool in Saudi Arabia, not anymore, but in the past, they will have a problem because they will need separate for men, separate for women. So that's a social study you need to do. If you go into Africa, there are tribals. Each tribes have got different ways and means of thinking and ways of behaving, or behaviors are very different. So you need to do that feasibility study. Okay, so these are some of the examples of how you manage a risk proactively. And I said this is something which is within your control, but certain things which is not within your control, all you can do is mitigate the impact on your business. Okay, now coming to a simple process, what is the objective of ERM? No major surprises. So if something happens, you should not be surprised, right? If a DPDP Act is coming, you should not suddenly say, oh, it's applicable for me from 1st June. No, it's a major surprise. I mean, but the bill was out, the discussions on, so you don't need to have those major surprise. So reduction in mistakes, right? Having a robust risk management policy reduces a mistake. It mitigates critical risk affecting your objectives. Adequate controls in place to do damage control and learn from previous mistake. And enabling strategic decision making. So as I said, ERM is not only about defending a risk, but also looking at how you can create value and take good decisions. So the simple process is you need to define your objectives, you need to identify the risk, you need to assess the risk. And once you assess the risk, you need to decide how you want to treat it. Do you want to accept the risk or do you want to treat the risk? Then you have to monitor how it is progressing and again link back it to a business objective. So these are the 5 broad steps. As I said, there are various publications, various means in how you can do it. But yeah, but there's no regulation that you need to follow a particular model, particular process. You do what you are comfortable with. And these are some of the frameworks. So you have the COCO framework, and these are all globally accepted framework. The COSO is the most common one. We have the ISO, the Indian Standard Organization, the International Standard Organization. So there is ISO 31000, and there are various things, like your RIMS, FIRMA, IRM, AIRMIC. Some are valid for financial institutions, some are valid for manufacturing, some are generally. So these are frameworks. Frameworks are nothing but a boundary within which you can operate. It just gives you a common understanding of risk management terminologies. So if I'm talking about risk, I'm talking about appetite. So we use the same language, right? Now, how do we get all this information? There are more than 202 countries, and every now and then there's a new country added or some country gets taken over, right? How do you get this information? So there are various local and global databases. They're all subscription based, but they give you good insight. So databases could be a Capitaline or a Crystal Research. A global database could be a Capital IQ, Data Monitor, Bloomberg, the McKinsey Quarterly. All of them are very good to give you insights. So you can subscribe, you can take limited subscriptions. There are various forums where you can go and discuss this and get information as well. Yeah. So other place of getting it, the company's website and other literature, the annual report if it's listed entity, the investor report against the listed entity, news articles. There are various analysts you write, subject matter experts, TL report, thought leadership report, research and knowledge databases which you may have, and there are a lot of research and knowledge databases that you will find it on the public domain. They give you certain element free, but later on you have to pay for all this. So these are the ways where you can keep reading, researching to identify risk. But before you identify risk, you need to know your business well, right? And business, you can know very well what a business has done is by talking to the company representatives. Now, risk can have multiple dimension. Time, annual operating plan, strategy. What is the risk on your annual operating plan? What is the risk on your strategic plan? What is the risk coming from macroeconomic risk? Geographies. The risk on domestic operation could be very different than international operation. So certain products which cannot be sold in the US can be sold in Africa, right? So maybe Africa is your market, so that's internal operation. You have to look at across business units. So if you have 4 plants across India, so doing a risk identification of one plant is not sufficient. You will probably have to do all the 4 plants because they're in different geographies, different type of products. Market strategy, risk can come from geographical expansion, product line expansion, vertical expansion, horizontal expansion, strategical alliances, whatever. So whatever inputs you get, either from reading the publications, your own knowledge, speaking to your stakeholders, there'll be various type of risk, hazardous risk, operational risk. You put that in a funnel. So, and you take a process, you include the blend of research, industry database, risks that have happened in the past, what other risks you get from your knowledge, you sort of filter it to come out with the top business risk, right? So, I mean, please, and enterprise risk management is something that has an impact on your strategic risk. We should not get very, very operational or transactional. So these are not the risks, say, of a duplicate payment. These are not the risk of, say, onboarding onboarding a dummy employee. These are all very operational and transactional. Your machine not working, operational risk. We are talking about a strategic risk here, something that can have an impact on my strategy that can make me bankrupt, right? So for example, if you don't report numbers on time, under SEBI laws, listing agreement or SEC agreement, it's a huge risk. The penalties are $20 million, $550 million. You don't know, it's huge risk. Okay, so we are looking at a strategic level risk or at an enterprise level risk. So multiple innumerous models that are available, but the basic three models that will help you, decipher or analyze for any organization of yours is a SWOT analysis. What is the strength of an organization? What are the opportunities that lay for you? What are your weaknesses and what are your threats? Okay, threats could be competitors, could be anything. So SWOT analysis, the old famous SWOT analysis. So every year the SWOT analysis has to be done because every year your strength, weakness, opportunity can change. The second is what I spoke a few slides ago called the PESTEL analysis. PESTL. P stands for political. Any change in political. For example, if you have a factory in, say, Andhra Pradesh, okay, will the change in the incumbent government impact you, the local government? So answer may be no, but there are a lot of acts which are the central level, a lot of regulations that are. So if the center and the state government are not the same party, you still can have a problem. So you need to do those analysis. Economic factors, demand, supply, social factors, very, very important. It tends to get missed out. That S is usually missed out. Technological, what is the technological change? What is the new way of doing business? Legal, local compliances. In India, you have the central compliances, state compliances, local compliances, and then you have a product level compliance also, right? So all these comes under legal. And last but not the least, environmental factors. We spoke about El Nino. So if you are running a paper company in a particular state which has got no water, then that's the last priority because water is reserved for human consumption and then it goes into the factory. So SWOT analysis PESTEL, and the other one is Porter's 5-force model. Porter's 5-force model looks at only 5 elements and excellent. And if you do all that, all your financial, tangible, intangible, all get covered. Bargaining power of the suppliers. Okay. So if you are importing oil, there are only 10 players who supply oil to you, or even there are 100 players, they're buying from the top 10 players, right? So what is the bargaining power of your suppliers? Let's look at wool. Suppose you are in the business of textiles and you make woolen clothes. Okay, wool from wherever you buy it, from whichever trader, whichever country, the origin of the wool predominantly is Australia, New Zealand, and China. That is where sheep's other animals, which llamas and all, which gives wool, are there, right? So irrespective of where you buy, the main source are these 3 countries. So they have the bargaining power. So if you don't bargain well, and you can't bargain with them too much. Similarly, bargaining power of your buyers, suppliers, and your buyers, that is your customers. Then you have to look at threat of new entrants, right? So if there are any new industry rivals, and threat of substitute. So threat of substitute are the disruptors. So you have your existing industry rival, there could be a new guy person coming in, or there could be an entirely new substitute that is coming in. So this is called the Porter's 5-force model. So with the PESTEL, which covers the 6 element, Porter's 5-force model, which covers 5 elements, 6 plus 5, 11, and the SWOT analysis, another 4. So if you look at doing your risk control matrix or identifying the risk in this 15 parameters, you are more or less got it 99% correct. Then likelihood of risk happening. Now this is somewhere where our judgment has to come place, your knowledge of the company has to come be in place. Risk can be cancelled. This is all model. As I said, you can choose whatever you want to, but we usually do a 5x5 matrix based on likelihood of risk and impact if the event occurs. A 5x5 25 matrix is looking at 3 by anything more than I have seen 3x3, 5x5, 10x10. 3x3 becomes very, very generic. The lines are too broad. At 10x10 becomes very specific, becomes very difficult for somebody to put. A 5x5 enables you to take a good judgment call. So whenever you identify a risk, you have to say, is it possible, plausible, whatever you call it? What is the likelihood of that risk happening? Okay, like going in a plane and the plane crashing. What is the likelihood? Now, if you see recently, it happened with the Singapore Airlines that, it was coming from London going to Singapore, suddenly hit a air pocket and it fell by over 2 kilometers, if I recollect correctly. I think it said 2-odd kilometers. Imagine a free fall or the plane coming down like 7,000 feet or 8,000 feet or 8,000, I think 8,000 feet. It's too much, 3,300 feet. Yeah, it was like 2.2 kilometers it came down. Okay, it is risky, right? Now, does it happen every now and then? No, it is a rare event. So the likelihood of it happening is rare. But the impact was significant. There was so many people who fractured, so many people who hit the head, hitting off the Thomas plane, and there's one person who died, right? Though it was rare, if that event occurs, the impact is very significant. Similarly, you can categorize between rare, unlikely, possible, likelihood, almost certain. The best way to do is looking at past data and seeing what has happened in the say, past 5 years, what has happened, or somewhere you need to take a judgment call. In that, you can also look at the velocity. The risk is there, but the risk is coming at a rapid pace, right? Sometimes the pace increases. If you remember, the way the rocket goes, when there's a headwind and the tailwind. When there's a headwind, when there's a tailwind, it goes faster. When there's headwind, it slows down, right? So that's the risk velocity. Significant of impact. You can, again, various models, you can do it on financial parameters, qualitative parameters, reputation. It's up to you. It all depends upon the business. You can look at what impact it has on your annual budget, or you can look at what impact it has on your project IRR or a net present value, what impact it has on your budgeted cost, EHS, whatever it may be. So the choice is yours. Again, enough material available for someone to research and decide what is relevant for your particular client. So as I said, these are the three models: SWOT, PESTEL, Porter's, likelihood of risk, significance of impact. Then this is the 5x5 matrix, as I said. So if it is rare and significant gets categorized 1. So the main focus is what you see on the red, whichever gets a score of 20, 25, 20. How do we get it to that 15, 16, 12 level? And from there, how do you get? So the green ones, we don't bother too much. The ones which are in yellow, you probably keep looking at it once in 6 months, one in 12 months. The one in amber or that orange or that color, every quarter you need to see, or every now and then, but the one in red has to be continuously treated because they're at an extreme level, so we call it extreme high, medium, and low risk. Okay. And as I said, what is our strategy of risk mitigation? In some cases, you have to accept, you can't do anything about it. In some cases, you can transfer. For example, you can transfer a loss by insuring it, right? Some place you can terminate or avoid. That is, you will not take that risk. I will not do it. There is a lot of tire companies, manufacturing companies, which says, okay, I will do on-road tires, I'll do off-road trial, but I will not touch the air industry. I don't want to make tires of the air, because they're saying that the risk, though remote, if that tire bursts because of a manufacturing defect, the amount of life loss will be huge. So there are companies who will say, I will not take this, I'll avoid this risk. Last but not the least, you're here to do business, so you have to treat some of the risk and take it to an acceptable level. So 4 responses: accept the risk, transfer the risk, treat the risk. If you can't do any of these, terminate the risk. That don't go into it. Okay. Now, how do you put it? Risk register, so that it becomes easy. Now, people keep questioning what is the value of a risk register, right? It's always there to track, because people change. We keep changing. So sources of, so for example, you can have a risk type, risk rating, description rate. Is very, very important to understand the root causes, right? Without the root cause, you can never have a mitigation plan. So you need to describe the risk. What are the reasons that that risk is emanating, or the risk is originating, and then only you can treat it. And as I said, there are 4 treatments. You either avoid it, you can accept it. So most probably, so you will find more cases where it is treated or transferred. Some you will have to accept, saying that this is a risk, there's nothing I can do about it. In some cases, you will terminate. Okay. So now this is all discussion. Now this is what my presentation all about. I think we should now open up for questions, because more value will come only if we have a discussion around this. So I'll take a pause here, Girish, and if you can open up for questions, it'll be great.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, this is Mehul here. As of now, we have not received any questions. So we can continue if anything is left.
Right. So now if anybody has a question, I can answer. As I said, ERM does not have anything that's a right answer or a wrong answer. Okay. What is important is we understanding that there is risk. It can come from anywhere. We need to be prepared ourselves. And how do we prepare? By keeping abreast on all the situations that are happening. And what I've seen is today we have lost the art of reading newspapers, right? So
Correct.
so yeah, so we all keep looking at short videos, people talking. So that's the biggest risk for me. The videos, misinformation, disinformation is there. We need to keep reading the Economic Times, if not physical, the digital version at least. Do some research. Okay. Just don't rely on some arbit videos and arbit Instagram post which comes in. We don't even know who the person is, but we somehow they put it in such a way that we get inspired by it. Okay, so that's all misinformation, disinformation. When I say all, 80-90%, of course, 10% is there, but we don't know how to do it. Okay, and the deep fakes that are coming, there's no technology in the world that can identify a deep fake today. Okay, so there's a push by the government that if anything is created using Gen AI, automatically a background it says it's created by Gen AI, it comes. Okay, but when you're looking at research papers, so Chat GPT also is a conversational GPT. If you ask a question, it gives an answer, and that you can copy the answer and you can paste it anywhere. Okay, now that is very difficult to identify whether this particular report is true or fake. So somewhere we have to use our own discretion. Right. So these are some of the points I want to leave behind. AI and Gen AI is going to be tough. We keep saying that it's going to get us all out of business. The answer is no. Both technology and human beings will exist. Its only thing is we have to accept it, and we have to upskill ourselves. And we need to participate in all the knowledge share sessions where we talk about AI and Gen AI.
Thank you so much for your nice presentation, sir. I like to thank Mr. C.A. Prakash Sharma, Chairman of PIAMA, C.A. Preeti Parasraula, Vice Chairperson of PIMA, Moderator of the session, C.A. Girish Maru, and our eminent speaker, C.A. Aditya Bhatt. I haven't given an opportunity to give you a vote of thanks. Today's speaker has enlightened us with the broad knowledge on the topic of risk to resilience, and CA Aditya Bhatt sir has covered a topic in depth and taken us through ups and downs of the topic. I'm sure everyone is aware about the SWOT analysis, but what we learned is PESTEL analysis, Porter 5 forces, 5x5 matrix, and that gives us the immense pleasure to give you a vote of thanks. Thank you so much, everyone. And if any questions, sir is ready to take.
Yes. So any question, happy to take. If somebody has an afterthought, you can always email. So my connects are there with ICA, and I always respond back. So not a problem at all. Whatever is comfortable, convenient, we can go ahead with that.
Sir, as of now, we have not received any question. We can proceed to closure of the session, sir.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
valuable inputs on the topic, sir. Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure
Thank
to be here. Look forward. See you then. Bye-bye.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.